If you find yourself, as a woman, faced with an ectopic pregnancy, Geerup suggests that you should seriously consider waiting and hoping for a miracle, because occasionally miracles do happen. And a lot of people came down very hard on Geerup because of that, saying that an ectopic pregnancy has no chance of surviving. And of course, that is not entirely fair, because it has been known for an ectopic pregnancy to survive. I would of course never call that a miracle. I would call that a medical exception, a very unusual set of circumstances leading to the survival of an ectopic pregnancy and a successful delivery. But before we exculpate Geerup here, you need to consider a couple of things. Let us look at the documented cases of a successful ectopic pregnancy. I did a bit of research and I found a couple. In first case was a woman called Meera Thangarajah, who delivered successfully an ectopic pregnancy. But let's consider the circumstances of that particular case. She never had any symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy. She just got pregnant, the pregnancy developed, and it was only on the delivery table that the doctors realized that they were dealing with a very exceptional circumstance, and of course then they had to deal with that during delivery. But there were never any symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy. She was very, very lucky. The second case was Jane Ingram, who was pregnant with triplets. At 18 weeks, they discovered that she was carrying a multiple birth, a multiple pregnancy. But it was only at 28 weeks when they discovered that there was a third fetus that was developing ectopically. Again, she had never had any symptoms. She was very, very lucky. Her fallopian tube actually ruptured and then sort of rebuilt itself while it was healing into something resembling a womb, into which the third fetus then managed to develop. This child also was delivered successfully and survived. The one common thing between all these cases is that in neither of those cases the woman was experiencing any symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy. That is very, very important to realize, because what that means is that when you do experience symptoms, there has not been a single case, not a single documented case of a successful delivery resulting from an ectopic pregnancy that manifests itself through the symptoms of an ectopic pregnancy. So Geerup's suggestion that you should just wait it out and hope for a miracle is extremely irresponsible, and it is wrong, and it would spell disaster for any woman who would be foolish enough to follow his advice. I have told him that in comments on Ghost of Day in Person's video. He should prepare for a court case, because if anybody were ever so stupid as to take his advice into account and refuses treatment for the ectopic pregnancy and suffers as a result, I would seriously suggest that that woman would sue him for his life, sue him, as I put it in one of my comments, until his bank account bleeds. Because suggesting something like that is just, not just irresponsible, it is plain evil. And he should know better. When I was talking to him, he started backpedaling heavily. He started cushioning himself. He started telling me that he did tell the women in question on a number of occasions, in the video and in comments and in the video description, that they should consult their doctor. That is as may be, Geerup, but you are still suggesting that they should ignore the advice that any doctor would give, and that is to treat the ectopic pregnancy. And treating an ectopic pregnancy does lead to the removal of the ectopic fetus. There is no alternative. And you are suggesting that that should be ignored. Do not deny it. There are cases, documented cases, of heterotropic pregnancies, where there are multiple fetuses and one develops inside the uterus and the other develops outside the uterus. Yes, that has been documented. But still, the ectopic fetus has to be removed. And then there's a 70% chance that the remaining fetus, the uterine fetus, actually survives. But nobody ever suggests that something like that, an ectopic pregnancy that presents symptoms, should go untreated under any circumstances. And that is just unacceptable. You really need to be careful here, Geerup. I would really suggest that you look at the options that are now open to you. Will I remind you of Carl and Raylene Worthington, whose 15-month daughter, Ava, died of bronchial pneumonia on the 2nd of March 2008. They are currently being sued. Have you ever heard of Sylvia Millecam, a Dutch celebrity who died of breast cancer after consulting a faith healer called Jomanda, who suggested that she should just leave it untreated and rely on faith healing for the problem to go away? Should I remind you of Darlene Neumann, who was convicted on the 1st of August 2009 for reckless homicide because he allowed his daughter Madeleine to die on the 23rd of March 2008 untreated because he relied on God to solve the problem. And his wife Leilani, who was convicted on the 22nd of May. Do I have to remind you of Darlene Bishop, who persuaded Daniel Perry to rely on prayer rather than conventional treatment for his throat cancer? Daniel died, of course. Do I have to remind you of Zachary Sweezy, who died of a ruptured appendix because, again, he had been indoctrinated all his life to rely on prayer rather than medical expertise to get his medical problems solved? Some of these people might wriggle their way out of a court case. They might walk away. Some of them have been and will be convicted. Do you really want to be on that list, Geerup? Then carry on as you are, because you are certainly setting yourself up for a tremendous fall.